I'm John Bowden from Rock History Music. I get a few requests, let's say every week, from people saying, do more stuff on Toto. And we've already covered Toto a lot on this channel, more than I think any other band. But hey, who needs an excuse? I want to start doing features like we started doing a few years ago, where we look at the Toto albums and have the people who were on those albums talk about them. In this case, it's the first Toto album released in 1978. I was 18 years old. And yes, just like you, when we heard the album, when we heard Hold the Line on the radio, people were saying, these guys are studio cats. And other folks who knew a little bit more at the time than I did, said, hey, some of these guys are on Boz Scaggs' Silk Degrees. But for the most part, these musicians are on so many records. They got chops and they're young. Don't you find sometimes you'll hear Hold the Line or Rock Maker or You Are the Flower or whatever song from the first album, Manuela Run? It'll bring you right back to where you were back then. But albums do that, right? And it's a good feeling. It's always good. So we're going to look back at that first Toto album on this one. We did a feature a few years ago on this record where we asked the fans to come on and talk about Toto 1. We're going to feature those guys in this video as well. But also some people, some musicians who were in Toto, who are in Toto, who just love the band in general. Toto 1 on Rock History Music. You were 1920 when that first album was recorded. What could you tell me about that guy, that young Steve Porcaro? What was he like going into that project, that band?
It was haven't really thought about that too much, but it to be honest with you, for all of us, we all at that young age had such blinders on. We had so much ambition to be studio musicians, to be those guys. Also, to eventually have a band together.
I still remember like it was yesterday walking into a record store in Paramus, New Jersey in 1978 and hearing the opening notes to Child's Anthem. My life has never been the same since.
You had to pick one. What's your favorite?
Album?
Yeah, from the band. Can you not do that, eh?
No, man. It's like, I'd have to go and look at, like, when we did the box set again. We did it in chronological order. It was like looking at a live musical photo album of your life. Yeah. I could hear the youth and silliness of the first few albums, us finding our way, but there's still something that felt good about it. There was a fire and innocence to it that was real.
Hi, it's Rick Rudar in Cleveland, Ohio. The first time I heard Toto was at a used record store in Cleveland Heights, Ohio, and I walked in and heard I'll Supply the Love, and immediately asked the store owner who this was, and he said, this is a new super group. I asked him if I could buy the album. He said, well, it wasn't out yet, but I could sell you this promo. And I paid $4 in 1978 for a promo, which was unheard of back then. Most promos were 10 cents, but it was the best $4 I ever spent. And I must have burned that out immediately because I bought 2 or 3 more copies when it finally came out.
The groove is amazing. Bobby's vocals on the chorus.
I'll always have a place in my heart for the first Toto albums, that we did up and through Toto 4, which was myself, David Hungate, Jeff Porcaro, Steve Lukather, Bobby Kimball, and Steve Porcaro. I think that was a great combination of players.
Those guys are just really, you give me a top 10 without having worked with them, I would have said they would have been in my top 10.
Hey guys, my name is Buddy Gott. I'm from Delaware, USA, and I remember when the album came out, man, I played it all the time. I'd stand in front of my mirror, I'd be moving my lips to the songs, I'd be playing the air guitar, and you know what, 40 years later, I still do that all the time. Drives my wife a little crazy.
There's a part of me that kind of always felt like it was like almost preordained or something, Toto never did a showcase for a record company. Toto never really did a demo for the record company. They saw us on stage with Boz Scaggs. Silk Degrees was so successful that almost at every concert we did, there was some big record exec wanting to take his picture with Boz or whatever. The album, Silk Degrees was so huge.
Hey, this is guitarist Pete Gitlin in Phoenix, Arizona. Thinking about Toto and their first album, and the song that really resonates with me is Georgie Porgy. What an incredible groove, and boy, it just really, really got me. As soon as I heard that song, I knew I was a fan for life.
Hi, this is Mike Della Bella from Rome. I actually remember buying this record from a record store. It was less than €2 at that time. Georgie Porgy absolutely changed my life.
Hi there, here's Thomas from Germany. amazing album. This is where it all began. For me, it's still one of the best adult-oriented rock CDs of all time. My favorite on this album is Georgie Porgy.
Hi, David Mendenhall here with Toto's debut album. I remember buying this thing on 8-track at Tower Records and seeing the incredible cover done by Philip Garris, who had done album covers for The Grateful Dead. What we have is the double-bladed sword that represents the band's versatility, the ring itself, which represents the work done on the album, and right here, the ribbon. It represents the Year of the Child, which was proclaimed in 1979.
Manuela Run, I thought was just cool. It was just simple David Page oddball lyrics, but like I love the way he sings. It's such a juxtaposition to Bobby.
That record was an eye-opener for me. It opened my eyes to rock music. I was not very old, but it has followed me since.
Oh my God, Jeff! Not only was he a fantastic, phenomenal drummer on this earth, I was breaking up with my daughter's mother the same week Toto was coming together, and I was about to go touring with Toto. The night before, we made the first recording of the songs for the first album. I had written a song. My daughter was in this little rolling chair next to me. She was 9 months old. And I wrote the lyrics about my daughter, Allison. The name of the song is You Are the Flower.
And then I always loved the fact that the story that Bobby says that You Are the Flower, I think was the song he came in with to the band for the record or for the first audition or something to that effect. I forget the exact story. But I know to him that song means a lot, that it was put on the record pretty much in the form that Bobby wrote it, almost like a solo write. That's the gist I got from Bobby's telling of it anyway. Yeah, it was, and it was for his daughter too. That's always an added bonus.
Hi there, Odin from the Netherlands. Well, my first Toto experience was the 7 the album, but my first LP experience with Toto was actually the Toto 1, the first one. And when I was 11 or 12 years old, and I was watching actually, while listening to the music, I was watching the guys, and I was wondering how would it be to make music with other people, and I'm a musician right now, so hey, there you go.
And they're the record company. So there's Jeff Porcaro, there's David Page, there's David Hungate, there's Steve Lukather, there's Steve Porcaro. You know what I mean? They saw this backup band that was, and the fact that David Page, that keyboard player, co-wrote every song on Silk Degrees, except one. And so they kind of laid on our laps,
We're still trying to find it. To this day, whenever we get together to work, it's easier to do it now because we kind of know where everybody's.
Some of the stuff he did on all their records, but it's so hard to see the truth with the sun. I mean, are you kidding me? Full voice, that's just ungodly. That's Steve Perry world.
I think for me, one of the big things about it is that every time you hear a Toto song, it's like listening to it for the first time. The songs are amazingly put together, beautifully arranged. I mean, what's not to like? The most talented musicians on the planet, bar none.
The ending to that tune, the ba-dum, 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 ba, and you have to rewind it and start counting. How did they figure out to do an odd number of bars to end? I just remember listening to things the first time and then it's all case studies of how that all get put together. All the synth stuff, and they go in double time.
My first memory of Toto's premiere album came after I had seen them for the very first time in the late 90s in Atlantic City. There were a lot of songs that they performed that I didn't realize was theirs. But one song that really stood out after I got the premiere album, after that concert, was the wonderful Steve Porcaro song, Taking You Back. I just love the chord progression, especially in the middle instrumental section. And I was so inspired by that song that I actually took it and based an instrumental version of a favorite praise song from church. And we did it several times in the context of our worship services.
I like that song a lot, and I thought at the time That was very indicative of me, the way I played, the way I sang, and the way I wrote. Rockmaker was typical of that. You know what I mean? So we used to play, we'd be on someone else's recording session, and when they'd have a downtime or take a break, me and Jeff and Hungate, I would start playing these songs, rehearsing them kind of, So when we got into recording them, we kind of all knew how they went, because we rehearsed them on other people's record dates, in our spare time. Yeah, it's just about a guy who writes rock and roll songs, but has a tumultuous relationship, and I kind of invented, romanticized the narrative there on it, and kind of like Rocket Man, but it's Rockmaker.
I was 15. I remember hearing that song, Hold the Line. It was amazing. Danced with a guy to that song. The guy turned out to be a jerk, but the love relationship that I have with your music has gone on for a lot longer than that.
Hold the Line, that intro, how old was that by the time we heard that song?
I had that when I was around 20 or 21. I just moved out of my parents' house, and because I was going to school, so I got my first apartment and my first little upright piano in my apartment, and that's the riff I started playing. So this is around, we're talking about 73, 74. I may have had that riff.
Toto 1. Driving in my car down Laurel Canyon, heard the song, like, They announced it was Toto, and I just had a big smile on my face, beaming ear to ear.
I started playing it, and then started writing a little song about it. And it turned up at a Toto, when we first brought Bobby Kimball in, we were trying to figure out who's going to be singing a song like that, and he sang the shit out of it. You know what I mean? So it was really great marriage and chemistry on that song to have our band playing, because they play so good on it,
But to discover bands like Toto and things like that and then dig in, obviously the Bobby Kimball angle was my first, but then I became a lifelong fan.
I played the Hold the Line riff so long that people were pounding on my doors like to stop playing and stuff like that. I almost got evicted from my apartment because of playing that riff, I think, for 3 days before I showed it to the band,
The groove, the Picaro thing, for me is like, that's probably a common thread of why I'm such a big Toto fan.
Other band that's been since then has been, I've loved it in different ways, you know what I mean? Different configurations for the band. And so, but I think that first one is one of my favorites.
Remember, if you want to donate to the channel, income on YouTube is very unsteady these days for a lot of creators. There's a PayPal link at the very top of the description. You can join our Patreon. You'll get early access to our videos. And we always appreciate it when you buy swag with Rock History music on it. We have t-shirts, caps, coats. And remember to subscribe, click the bell notification so you don't miss anything. Comment on the videos, like them, and share them on social media. I'm John Bowden. This is Rock History Music.